that's really interesting, because we are touching upon one topic you talked already about when we prepared this conversation, is about how UX is so deep that it is really part of how we create the business model of a company. Because you just talked about this interesting link between the two. Like, you want to create something deep as a social network, and we talk about revenue, we talk about behaviors. How do you feel that we have, like, UX is part of it? Like,
I think in UX for beginners, it's lesson 2, where I say, like, to me, it's maybe the most fundamental. If you're doing UX as a job, I should say, maybe not the most fundamental design things in UX, but if you're doing UX as a job, the thing you should always start with is that you always have two goals as a designer. One is the needs of the user, of course. So that's the one big goal. But then if it's a company or a business, then somehow money has to come in. So there's a business goal in there as well. And the best UX solutions are always the ones that solve both. And so there needs to be, you need to include the business in, like, it has to be a product, not just a website concept. So to me, when we talk about, like, anytime, let's take cognitive biases as just a topic, that if you talk about what makes one product better than another product, let's say two pieces of software or two websites or two apps, let's say they're trying to do the same thing. Fundamentally, if one is good or better than the other, then a lot of what makes it better is actually just cognitive biases, like, used in design. So you're making things, this is where the faster and easier thing comes in. Like, why is faster and easier better? And that's all cognitive biases. It's all, making it less load on your mind as you're going through, so that you can understand it, making it more familiar, making it more available, like, all those. That's really all it is in the bottom. So if you understand how human behavior works just on those basic building blocks, then you create a better business if those are built into the way everything works. So let me give you an example of B2B companies. So the old way B2B software was sold was that you hire a sales team and they make a lot of phone calls. And then when you find a customer that likes it, you go to their office and you show them the software, etc. So then the modern way you do it is SaaS, so software as a service, and the user shows up on the website, they get all the information they need, they just register themselves, they get some kind of a free trial or something, or it's like they just get it for free and then they can pay to get more, something like that. So the first one takes a really long time and you need to do a lot, and it's a lot of phone calls and meetings and blah, like, it's just slower, it's more information and time. And then the SaaS version of it, you can have a couple of clicks and go on feeling and intuition and you're in. Yeah. And SaaS is just better. like as a business model, it's better. It makes more money because it responds to the way humans want to behave. Yeah. It's the way we're built. And this is kind of an abstract topic, so I'm not sure if I'm really nailing it with examples, but that's a way that UX can move the revenue of a company. Yeah. What your message is basically is that we make use of cognitive bias as a way to, I feel the point is that we use cognitive biases in general to create the impression of smoothness or simplification of the process. Whereas if we didn't use
an approach like UX to do it, we couldn't have this feeling of improvement. But you have 2 points here. You have like the organization of the business model itself, and how you provide your service or product to the users. Like what you explained is a bit more on the front stage. Like you could be the same company selling it by phone yesterday and today selling by through your website and some online demos and stuff like that. What makes you feel that it's more important than that? Because I just simplified it a lot, but
okay. Maybe another angle on that I usually talk about this with startups. So it's, you can design your business model so that the company gets paid and then the user gets benefit, or you can design it so that the company gets paid when the user gets benefit. So when, like, you get paid when the value is delivered to the user. So, and that sounds like a small difference in the business model. So, but over time, it actually changes the direction the business goes. So if we, I'll use Facebook as an example, a bad example actually. So in Facebook sells ads when you go through more pages. So it's, but that disconnects the value of Facebook to the money. They can make more money by making Facebook worse, as long as they're making you see more pages.
Yes.
And that's causing problems for them now. Like it takes a while to evolve that problem. But now they're in a position where they can make more money if they start abusing the users with the feed algorithm. And they're doing it. And they're optimizing, like, for companies to be less visible because it will make you spend more on ads. And so, like, long term, that destroys the experience. And I think especially in the United States, we're starting to see that the, like, Facebook brand is just getting worse and worse and worse. People trust them less and complain more, and that's what happens. Whereas if you take a product like HubSpot or something that's loved a lot more, they give the value up front. The users get value right away from starting to use it, and their CRM is free and their content is good. And then the idea is that once you get in there and start using them more and more, you will pay because you're growing inside their tool. That's their whole strategy. So they can never really run into this ethical problem because the users have value even when they don't pay. So then the company and the users are aligned, and that business model grows bigger and bigger and bigger, whereas Facebook sort of hits a peak and then starts going over the other side. Yes,
I agree. Well, one point I see on your previous example, as from a company that calls the potential users or clients to potentially at some point have a few that are willing to test it, etc., versus the SaaS version, is the predictability of the business model. Like you know that you will have revenue that is in a predictable way, whereas in the other instance you just don't know. There's so much uncertainty, and everything relies on the fact that your selling team is really good. It's really hard to quantify. It's like
and if you want to sell more that way, you need more salespeople. But with SaaS, the cost for each customer gets lower and lower as you grow. So then, I mean, that's proper business model efficiency.
True. And that's press upon the fact that designers need to understand business stuff. Like,
I think the more senior you get, the more you should, because you start to have an effect. I mean, if it's your first job and you've been a UX designer for 3 months, then it's probably okay if you don't see that. Like, if you don't, because you might not also have the influence to do much with the business model. But it doesn't take very long before you can start designing, say, a feature that gets in the way of the business model a little bit if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
Or like, actually, on the topic of fast and easy, if your website makes money from advertising, and you make your website faster and easier, you're actually hurting the company's revenue. there are fewer pages and less clicks, so you're seeing fewer ads and making less money. So that's I don't like that relationship, but there's lots of businesses built like that. So you need to understand that you're cutting away money slowly.
Yeah, true. But that's a contention point we have in general with the the advertisement model. It's like ads rely on the fact that people are watching them, and if you want it to work, you need more people to watch more ads. So at the end, you cannot solve this issue. It's like
No, I agree. That one's hard, and the business itself becomes the UX problem.
Yes, true, and that's the Facebook's problem, is that they cannot mitigate their need to make a great platform for social sharing and connection and stuff like that, and at the same time sustaining their business model. It's like we could almost impossible to resolve.
Yeah. If we had 3 or 4 more hours, we could talk about how shameful it is to have billions of users and not have any other way to make money. That's a conversation for another day, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but that's a good conversation.
I mean, imagine if somebody, a billion people, nobody has that. That's like being the leader of a country and not being able to think of any way to make taxes.
Yes.
Like,
yes, that's true. And maybe that's a discussion around as well, the organizational part of design. Is like the whole company is organized around the business model, and it takes for a company as large as Facebook, it takes so much time to adapt to change that because the base assumptions for everything they do is that the business model works.
Yeah, and
today it doesn't. Everything is broken, but there's no way to remove this this base assumption from everything they do. It's
I have never worked at Facebook, so I won't say what it's like or what it isn't like.
Yeah,
imagine being the guy who wants to pitch an idea that removes advertising as revenue. I mean, that's a hard sell at Facebook.
Yes. Counterintuitively, we have the same kind of discussion, but in another way with Twitter these days. It's like the more we go, we see how Twitter adapts itself to the issues around advertisements and some decisions that they took recently about removing ads for political stuff, and it's hard to see how they can still rely on this kind of business model in the future, and some people are suggesting that they do a freemium platform instead.
It would be interesting. I think it would be interesting also to see something like Substack but on Twitter. Yeah, where there's a layer it's a freemium model, but like a layer where you can only get there, or by paying. But yeah, I don't know. It is a genuinely hard problem when you have a big platform like that, and you would prefer if the revenue wasn't what it is.